Hi, in this video I'm going to be making a haul table for a client who has a set of these cast iron stands for a leather worker's foot operated punch press, and so that'll be the legs. And so what we're going to do is make a top that is veneered with book match quilted maple and veneered on a substrate that's about 1 7/8 inches thick, nice thick top, and banded by some teak that my client also had or has. And so I'm going to start out by cutting the veneer. I've already laminated up some plywood for the substrate, and that's in the vacuum bag right now. But I'm going to cut up some veneer, and then I will flatten it some using a little Super Soft 2 flattening. This is improved Super Soft 2 flattening solution from veneersupplies.com. And using an iron, I'll iron that out and we'll let that dry, and it'll be a little flatter because this stuff's kind of bumpy, and you really want it to press down and be relatively flat. So I've got my veneer saw, a straight edge. I've already marked where the first cut is. I'll go ahead and cut these to length, and then I'll cut them to a nice square width after I flatten them and tape them up. Okay, so the top is cut. I've saved the cutoffs as calls. I've smoothed the surfaces. And now at this point, I've taken a piece of teak and I've cut it into 3/16 inch strips. So 2 strips together gives me 3/8. I'm going to clean the surface of the teak using some acetone, because when you first cut the teak, even if you run it through the sander like I did, it still feels waxy. So you want the glue to actually be able to adhere. So clean it with some acetone. Then I'll use the urea glue, which is the Unibond 800. And I've got a bunch of clamps here, and I'll just go ahead and clamp that up. And that should work for making this bent lamination of 2 pieces of teak. Now the table has 2 shelves, so I went ahead and cut a curve on each side. To get these curves, you know, there's a couple ways to do it, but the way I've done it is to use this symmetric bow, and you simply use this drawstring to pull this together. You lay it down on your mark lines. I marked the extremities and kind of the, you know, the radial direction, and laid it on there, and then trace it with a pencil, and then it's a pretty simple matter to band saw that out. I'm using my dandy lift to hold the bottom shelf to the correct height, and a clamp to clamp these 2 leg pieces together. Another clamp to clamp this leg piece to the bench so I can get it vertical, and then by placing the upper shelf, and I went ahead and drilled the pilot holes for the 2 center screws, and using my level, I'm able to get things leveled out and get the screw holes marked properly. And once they're marked, it's just a matter of drilling them, and then I'm all fit up. Now, this particular veneer had a tendency to have a little bit of chip out, so after I've gotten some finish on here, it makes it very easy for me to see those places. So I'm just using a burn-in stick to put a little burn-in. I'm using the translucent into the little places, the little divots. And then I can just do finish over that. So the burn-in stick, this is from Mohawk. It's just a little 25-watt heater, and use this resin stick, and got to use the raking light to find the little divots. There we go. You just put a little bit of this in there. There we go. Just overfill the hole just a little bit. And just take care of the, it's just the larger little divots that we have here. Okay, and then once those are done, just wipe the iron for a minute, get that clean. Take a little burn-in balm, which is just a release agent that you put around the area, and then we'll come in with the knife and smooth these out. The release agent makes it so that the burn-in stick doesn't stick elsewhere, and after we're all done, we'll just wipe that off with a little alcohol, and then we'll go ahead and continue with the finishing. So you just kind of move your iron, your knife over like that, and wipe off the excess. And make sure you're keeping your iron where the release agent is. There we go. And those little divots are filled in now. So it's kind of neat. Now the original punch press had a foot pedal to operate the punch, so I went ahead and installed that foot pedal with a spring. Doesn't do anything, but it does move up and down, kind of neat. Plus, it'll prevent the grandkids from climbing on the pedal and causing the table to flip over, so it has a little bit of give to it. What I did to install that, let me just flip this down for you. I just made a couple of blocks with a 3/4 inch hole through them so that the shaft for the press could go, for the pedal could go through, and then took a spring, attached it here and here with a little landing pad on there, and that's all there is to it. Works real good. Well, I'm going to finish up finishing the top with kind of a version of French polish. I don't want to call it French polish because it's really not, but it uses some of the same ideas. I take a pad of cotton with some gauze inside, make a little lump of gauze, and then close that up so that it'll hold some finish. And then I've got some of my 1 pound cut shellac. I've got a little bit of denatured alcohol and a little bit of mineral oil. And the idea is to put a really thin coating on with this pad. So I just go ahead and dip it into the shellac a little bit, let that drain out, because you don't want much. And then you got the alcohol on there. The idea is for this to be really thin, and then instead of doing a figure 8 shape, I'm just going to do straight lines so that I can kind of have any marks from the pad along the grain. And by doing this, I'm able to get a really thin coat on, and I avoid the ridges that I get when I'm first padding on shellac. You know, when I put it on heavy, I get a lot of ridges that have to be sanded out. Well, this is the very last coat, so the idea is no ridges. And I just got to be careful to feel that the pad doesn't start dragging. If it starts dragging, then that means that I've softened up the under layers of shellac and I'm going to have a mess. So as long as it's going smooth, I'm fine. If it starts to chatter a little bit, then it's time to put a drop of mineral oil on here as a lubricant. Got a couple little lines there I want to get out. Now let that stiffen up a little bit. I'll do it again going the other way, and I'm just about there. I'll probably finish up with just a little, using a little bit of this white pad just to kind of bring the gloss down just a hair, and then I'll be all set. I don't know if you're going to be able to see how nicely the quilting came out in the quilted maple, but it really looks good. So I think we're all ready to deliver. Thanks for watching.